Welcome. Apparently, it was live for 10 seconds. It's very slow. But anyway, we have another great show, great guests. I won't bother with my long intro because I'm really not feeling well today. But, if you're here, we appreciate you. You want to support the show? Make sure to like it, leave a comment, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. And then, as always, don't forget the super chats, which you can do if you have a question during the show, or a sticker or the YouTube memberships afterwards. But, enough about that. We have some great guests, so let's start with that. Go ahead.
Which one?
Oh, I'm supposed to be in charge of that?
We can fight to the death.
Fight to the death. Yeah, no, do that. I don't know.
Well,
we can go alphabetical order.
Yeah, do rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Do that.
All right, Conan.
Can you do three-way rock, paper, scissors?
Conan, you can go first. You're the C.
I'm here every week with Tyler, so I don't think people need any more about me. But why don't
they do,
why
though?
don't you go? I mean, obviously, right now I don't make too much content on my own, but I do have plans for a podcast, hopefully starting in the next week or two. I told myself, week after the Super Bowl, that's when I'm gonna get down to business. Finally, get myself to do that. So
how's your smoothie?
It's good. It's good. A little chocolate, peanut butter with a banana. It's treating me well.
I wish I could have a smoothie.
Good mix right there.
Oh yeah. But why don't Dave? Why don't you start us off? Tell the people about you a little bit more.
I'll take it as me, and so I'm with Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I am their lead Dynasty analyst. I also have we do our podcast twice a week, articles, and I'm part of the expert consensus rankers on Fantasy Pros. I appreciate you guys having me on. Follow me at Dynasty Dorks.
We've done a show together. We did the Giants show, didn't we?
Oh, we've done several together.
Quite a few. You were on the draft stream.
Oh yeah,
a couple of times, and then we did. Oh, I was on your show. Just the two of us. We did like a mock draft.
You were on mine twice. We did one together where it was scheduled, and then the other one I was like, "Hey, I'm bored. Who wants to talk?" And you were like, "Me." And so we just hopped on randomly.
Nowadays, I'm too busy for that.
You guys do so many shows, you don't even remember shows you did together.
No, I don't.
Like, oh yeah, that other one too. How many shows do you think you've done in your career?
Me?
Yeah, both
hundreds.
Of you. I know Dave does
hundreds.
A lot too.
Dave's probably done more.
1,000.
Because
I got 3 today. So,
jeez,
I haven't been doing recorded content for that long. Like, I started doing recorded content really right at the beginning of 2021. Not as long as I think people would think. I feel like it feels like I've been doing this forever, but I really haven't.
Yeah. High volume. So I feel like I'm the same way. I haven't been doing it that long, but I do it consistently high volume,
Well, yeah, I mean, I had my whole career as a writer, like as a high volume writer, and then, I still write. I wish I weren't so sick today. I would have actually accomplished something before I came on the show. But
well, yeah, I guess that leaves me last. If
you're
watching, you probably know me from Twitter, Guru Fantasy World. You can also find me on Patreon. Same thing, patreon.com at Guru Fantasy World. There is an O on Patreon, though. I didn't have enough characters on Twitter. But yeah, on Patreon as well, I do have a podcast as well. Don't do it very often. I think I have 8 episodes since last season, but if you want to follow there as well, you can find that on Spotify. I think Apple Podcasts as well. Same name, Guru Fantasy World.
And how do you do on podcasts? My podcast numbers are always terrible. I'm always better on YouTube.
A couple hundred per episode. Again, I only have eight episodes total. I don't have many followers.
So then my podcast numbers are really bad.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
No.
I'm lucky if I get, I don't know. I feel like I just don't really click on podcasts because I do too many things with the live questions. Yeah. And it's hard. If you're on the podcast, you can't see them.
My thing with podcasts, I try to keep them short. Like almost all of my podcasts are like 15 minutes to 45 minutes. That's smart. So it's just easy for people to consume. I think these days everybody's it's tough to find time to focus for over an hour, especially.
It's tough for me to find time to focus during the show, let alone consuming other people's stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Oh yeah, Conan, you're reading these.
We got 12 team Superflex, half PPR, no tight end premium. QBs, Herbert, Watson, running backs, Taylor, Rashad.
How do we make it so it doesn't cover up their faces so much? Oh. I like it.
All right.
I feel like we've been trying to solve this problem forever. Forever we've been working on it.
Drew needs to type less. He needs to abbreviate.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, wide receivers looks like they got a solid core. You know, Lamb, London, Burks, Dotson, Deontay Johnson, Bateman, etc. But they said they just traded the 104. Oh, that is a lot better.
Shift video up for comments banners. It's an option.
Nice.
Drew, you don't need to type less. I apologize.
We're very sorry.
So he wants our thoughts. He traded his 104, 112, 2024 first for the 103 in Pitts. Okay.
Very
That's basically like 112 in the 2024 first for Pitts, because 103 and 104, assuming you don't need the QB, I don't see a huge difference there. If you needed, like, if you want to take Stroud or Young, I can understand like you wanting more, but I'm fine paying 112 and a future first for Pitts. A lot of people might not be, but I'm still very much in on Kyle Pitts. I think a late first, 112 in a
Kyle
future.
Pitts truther?
Very much so, till I die.
Well, hopefully you don't die anytime soon. I will say I did write an article on. It's actually my last DLF article. Now I'll put the link right there. If anyone is interested, you can read that. And it's about Kyle Pitts and Javonte Williams and kind of their future after not the second year we would have liked. You know, not the second year we would have liked. So I did a good write up there. I'd take Pitts here as well, by the way.
Yeah, I like the move. I like being able to move up because you can always move back. If something happens in the draft and you feel like, you know, but going up that one extra spot, it maybe just a little move, but I think it's a bigger deal than what it is. And 112, 24 first, whether, you know, you're out on Pitts or not, I mean, that's the value. That's what's going to cost to acquire someone like that or another tight end. And Pitts is an asset that for whatever reason has had insulated value. So no matter how bad he is, he's still going in some startups as the number one tight end. So he could then, if he wanted to, flip Pitts. You know, but I think it's a good move, especially if there's, you know, it's super flex and you get one of those top two quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the 103, the 104, it's like almost a wash, but he might have done this. I mean, it's similar in terms of if you don't want one of those quarterbacks in the value, but if that's one of your goals, like you wanted one of those two quarterbacks, I think especially then it's a great move. And I mean, like right now, Herbert and Watson, obviously a great duo, but you know,
right now, and I read that backwards. Sorry to cut. I read that backwards too. I thought he was moving back from 103 to 104, and I still would have done it. But moving up, especially, I definitely would.
Exactly, yeah.
As well.
No, it's okay. Interruptions are good. Interruptions are good. The guests who have less good time on the show is the one who don't know how, because then they never get to talk. you gotta interrupt me if you want to get your time. But today that's not going to be a problem because you guys like all look like very like you're like all moving. It's not good. This is what food poisoning does to you. It's really it's really not good. But what was I going to say? Oh, right. So I do think it's interesting. We talked about the 103 versus the 104 in a super flex. Right now, I would say obviously Bijan Robinson is the 101 for everybody.
Yeah.
And then I think most people in Superflex would have Young and Stroud at 2 and 3 and Gibbs at 4. That's what I've seen.
Gibbs or JSN.
Or one of them.
I've heard some buzz of Gibbs getting into the late first round, though. I think if he did that, considering some of the teams considering Kansas City is picking at 30 and Philly at 31 or whatever, vice versa, I think it might work out. You know, if that really comes to pass, maybe Gibbs could move ahead of one of them. Or if, one of the quarterbacks falls, I mean, there's no guarantee that Young and Stroud are going to be 1 and 2. I've heard that the Colts are interested in trading up to number 1 to pick Will Levis. So exciting. So exciting. So you never know. It's always better to move up. You always want to have a higher pick over a lower one.
Mhm.
Well, okay, this is actually very interesting. It's funny because these are not the same person, but they're asking very similar. I mean, we're talking about the 103 or the 104 again. So similar topic here. What do we think about this one?
Yeah, I'm good with it. Like I said earlier, this is going to be at least the cost on draft day. You can always move back every time you're able to do that. So 112 and 106 to move up to 103, 104 in Superflex. Again, you're going to hold the cards. And so you may not like Stroud or Young, but you still have the ability to pick one of them. That's why I would go for 103. And then you can get another quarterback. You can always use that pick to trade for a veteran quarterback if you don't want one of those guys.
I think I'm fine paying that for the 103, like assuming you want Young or Stroud. 104, I don't like that because I feel like it's going from JSN or Addison, who I think is really a good wide receiver as well, to Gibbs, where
Agreed.
I don't think you need to pay a first to go from JSN or Addison to Gibbs. That's just, it doesn't make sense when we're not talking about the positional value of a quarterback. So I'm definitely, I don't think making that move for the 104. 103, I get it, but I still feel like you can probably get something back with the 103 if you push a little harder right now, because like Tyler said, those QBs, we don't have landing spots yet. The hype could go higher. It's not as high as it could be. So I think if you're going from 106 to 103 and you're giving the 112, be pushing to get like a late 2 or like a future 2 or something like that back if you can.
Yeah, I mean, I just pulled up the DLF trade analyzer, and it does prefer the package even over the 103. And I agree with that. So.
It definitely seems like, especially like you said, going from the 106 to the 104 at the expense of another first, that just seems a little steep. And even moving up the 3 spots from the 106 to the 103, unless you're very, very set on needing a quarterback and you really believe in, one of the guys that are going to be there, then, I understand your QB position might be weak, whatever, but it does seem like a little bit too much only to move up 2 spots or maybe 3. But it's, I mean, I do think as we get near to the draft, like you're saying, it's that those values kind of get inflated. More names are attached to the actual picks. And so you never know what you might be able to get out of having the 103 or 104 down the road. Yeah. But it's tough.
And I think, especially when we're talking about if you are going up to 103, and that's the price, all right, and you want a quarterback, assuming, well, we can go check in on these other quarterbacks like Kyler. We can see who the Deshaun Watson, or we can offer just 106 for Kyler. See what kind of counter we get there.
Oh, that would be
106, great. Just 106. Obviously, we're probably going to get counter asking for a little more. But there's a range of panic on Kyler right now. Talk about Deshaun Watson as well. You can at least put out some feelers before saying, all right, I'm just going to pay this right now today to go up to 103 for a QB. You don't have to rush that move immediately.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point.
So there's the link to my article. If anyone wants to check that out. Got offered Dalvin Cook for 109. Okay. So Dalvin Cook is just, I don't want Dalvin Cook at all.
209 maybe.
That's, I would take him for 2.
Yeah,
but
I would.
Yeah, but
no first. He's not worth any first.
No, I don't think so.
Any year.
Dalvin Cook also is one of those players where the gap between the buying price and the selling price for me is huge. I don't.
He's like a hold now, because
even in a 1 QB, I don't think I would pay more than the 203 or 204. But to sell, it's tough. It's tough.
I'm not doing it. I mean, at this point, you can wait, and on draft day, if you really want to make that decision, you can. But God forbid you go and do this and something happens where Dalvin Cook gets injured or something happens. Like players can get hurt, suspended, all that stuff. Then we're going to talk about something later on about that. But 109 can't. And so just hold tight. The prices, but like I'm still not. At the end of the day, I'm not taking 109 for. I'm not going to take Dalvin Cook for 109 unless Dalvin Cook's coming with something plus. Like it's just 109's more valuable, and you're probably going to get a decent running back looking at the class at that cost that's much younger.
And the thing with picks too, if you're going to sell like a resale, we talk about Dalvin Cook, your market is only Dalvin Cook buyers. When you're going to sell 109, when it's on the rookie clock, you're opening up the market for any number of players. You're looking at buyers of maybe Will Levis, buyers of these running backs, Tank Bigsby, Sean Tucker, these Josh Downs, Zay Flowers.
Everyone.
All of these different markets for different players where now you have so much more potential to find like a good value deal. Where you stuck with Dalvin Cook, you got maybe one or two people in your league who even want to make an offer, and it's probably a low ball offer. So you just have so much more flexibility with the rookie pick.
Dalvin Cook also kind of looked not so good down the stretch. I mean, the Vikings could cut him. They'd have to do it early. There's a guarantee that vests on March 17th. So they'd have to do it. They'd have to make that decision very early. I doubt it. I doubt it. I really don't see that being the case. I think that they feel they'd only save about $8 million by cutting him. I don't know if they feel like he's like totally washed up. I mean, they certainly gave him plenty of work. They didn't lose faith in him.
They could restructure the deal, but yeah, Zeke, Dalvin Cook, and Aaron Jones all have opt-outs this year, and so all those players could be on the bubble.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook's contract is... I don't know if they would want to restructure it, to be honest. Like, I think their best move is just make 2023 his, like, swan song, and then they just cut him, and they have almost no dead cap after that. Like Dalvin Cook is far better than Zeke now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Zeke looks totally cooked. Like, completely cooked. Whereas, like, Dalvin Cook was not Dalvin Cook of old, but he was fine. He was serviceable as I'd be comfortable as an NFL team if you're telling me Dalvin Cook is going to be my starting running back next year. I'd be completely comfortable with that. Like, that's not something that I feel like is a problem. Whereas Ezekiel Elliott being my starting running back, I actually feel like is a problem. I feel like as an NFL team, that wouldn't work for me.
100%.
Plus, also the Cowboys are far more buried under Zeke's contract. Dalvin's contract's not quite as big. All right, let's see.
So we got 111 Hodgins and Knox for Rashad White and Deontay in standard PPR. Okay.
I love this. This is something I always hated during start sit. Just spare this. I'll give you guys the rant for a second. Apparently now we have something called standard PPR. Is it standard or is it PPR? Apparently now PPR is standard. So I hear standard PPR. Like,
I think I would guess is because there's a lot of premiums.
No, it's so PPR. I just like.
Well, he's saying there's no premium. It's
no, I know what he's saying.
PPR.
I just find it hilarious that like we used to have standard or PPR, and nowadays no one ever plays standard. So I hear standard PPR because PPR is the standard. But it's something that's like, as someone who's, even though I haven't created content for that long, I've played fantasy football for a long time. Like when I started playing fantasy football was like 2009. Standard was the standard. And nowadays I feel like PPR is the standard. But it's just something I always find funny. And this show is very long and we have time for some diversions. But for the value of this one, I don't know.
So they have the 4 firsts and a few seconds, and they'd be looking to get rid of the latest first, 111.
It doesn't say anything about the format. Nothing about format would help.
Just gonna assume Superflex.
Probably is, yeah. And since there was nothing mentioned about tight end premium, probably isn't.
This one's tricky for me because if you just talk about pure value, you add up Rashad White and Deontay, like it's probably more value than the 111 and then like throw-ins and Hodgins and Knox. But if I have the 111 and I'm like looking to sell it, I'm sending out better offers than that. Or like, that's not the first offer I want to take is Rachaad White. And I like Rachaad White. Deontay, I feel like's good buy low, but like, I would be trying to use those few seconds to be getting those guys.
You
and
sure
not so
that
much,
Deontay's a good buy low?
Not at the 111, not at the cost of the 111. Like,
no, but I'm very worried about Deontay.
Mid to late second price, I'm fine paying.
The number of times I've heard that Jordan Addison will be going to the Steelers. Now it's like so many times. And if that happens, then Deontay is just dead in the water. Like, it's already not working. It's already not working. It's already doesn't work in this offense with Kenny Pickett. It's already there's too many people for Deontay to survive. He's too inefficient. No big plays, no touchdowns, nothing. He's not going to survive.
Even then, at the cost of a late second, what are you really? You're still getting a guy who you can plug in as a flex and get 10 points. Like,
oh, sure, but I would never pay the 111 for Deontay or anywhere near it.
No.
But it's just Deontay's someone to me who, while the reason I don't want to say he's a buy low is because I don't see any real potential that what's going to happen between now and the start of the season to raise Deontay Johnson's value. Nothing. All of the other pieces are like locked in. He's stuck with Kenny Pickett as his quarterback, who's just okay at best. George Pickens is going nowhere. Pat Freiermuth is going nowhere. Najee Harris is not going anywhere. So only bad things can happen. Nothing good, and only bad things can happen to Deontay Johnson between now and the start of the season. So I tend to avoid players like that I feel are in that situation as buy lows.
Definitely would wait to make that deal. I agree. Rachaad White, like his value could go up if Fournette is cut, but like I feel like you said,
Fournette, they owe him a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's also one of those things where they say my only notable RB being Algier. First of all, that's not really a notable
that's
RB.
That's not good. Yeah.
So this trade doesn't make me feel that much better about my RB position if I were to make it. And so since we're already like I get the values there, but like for the 111, feel like we could do a little better. It's like if we're gonna be there, then I don't think this is really worth making. Like so that you can have Rachaad White and Algier be your only RBs. Like it's like that still doesn't sound awesome to me, at the expense of the 111.
Agreed.
So I will say though that Leonard Fournette is another one of those players who has some vesting guaranteed money. With him, it's March 19th. So they're not going to let that money vest if he's not going to be there. So he's either on March 19th, you're going to know if they're going to cut Leonard Fournette or not. I would lean. They only save $3.4 million if they do. $5 million dead. I would lean that they don't, but it's really hard to say. I think if they save more, they would.
Well, Kyle Trask needs someone to check down too, right?
Derek Carr is going to be their quarterback. Derek Carr is going to be their quarterback. I'm fairly confident, actually. I mean, I don't see.
I'm fairly confident it won't be Trask.
No. I honestly think Derek Carr, and that's one of the things in the news that we had to talk about. That trade situation is not really moving very quickly. I mean, it is, but then it isn't. Like well, does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Derek Carr?
Yeah, well, I mean, we know that on February 15th, he has $40 million in vested guarantees. So something is going to happen between now and February 15th. It's not that far away.
Yeah, no, I think something's definitely going to happen. The way they're openly talking about it, I mean, Devontae Adams at the Pro Bowl yesterday, they asked him, are you recruiting Aaron Rodgers? Yeah. He said, yeah, that's my guy, which was interesting because he said, yeah, that's my guy. But they're openly talking about it. Derek Carr is making jokes at the Pro Bowl. They said, man, you were really on a heater. And he said, yeah.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
Apparently, have you ever been on a heater like that in Las Vegas? He said, apparently not. That's why I'm going to another team. So they're so openly talking about it. I think they're going to – and the Raiders have – the leverage is kind of not there because of the situation. He has a no-trade clause. They get, like you said, $32.5 million guaranteed this year, $7.5 million guaranteed next year on that date. They got to make it work somewhere. And I like
he's going to get released.
Yeah, and
he's going to get released.
They're going to have to trade or release him at this point.
Well, if I were Derek Carr, if I were Derek Carr, maybe Derek Carr is a nicer person than I am. Actually, not maybe. Derek Carr is 100% a nicer person than I am. If I were Derek Carr, I would be like, well, I'm not going to waive my no trade clause. On February 15th, I'll gladly collect my $40 million guaranteed, and then this can be your problem. Or you can cut me by that date, and then I'm going to get in free agency, I'm going to get a big contract when it's free agency and I can negotiate without having to worry about, being under contract already. I'm going to be able to get 70, 80 million guaranteed because I'm going to be able to pit multiple teams against each other. I mean, the Saints, we know, are interested. We know that. We know the Bucks interested.
The entire NFC South.
The Jets, the Panthers could be interested. We know the Jets are interested. We know for sure. The Panthers, possibility. There's quite a few teams that he could pit against each other. So I would just tell the Raiders, I mean, you didn't want me, so why would I help you? I'm not going to help you. But he doesn't seem to want to do that. He's, he should make a business decision for himself. But it's all going to be worked out very soon. And he's going to have an advantage because if he's cut, he's going to be a free agent before the free agency period.
Yep.
So he's going to be able to sign with a new team as of February 16th. And, there are going to be many teams that are interested. And whoever he signs with is going to kind of have a jump on free agency. He signs with the Bucks or the Jets, then they'll be able to conduct their free agency already knowing they have Derek Carr. So I think that'll be very interesting storyline to watch. We'll have to see. I'm excited for it though. We need the domino. That one, the Aaron Rodgers domino. I think they're all going to play out very soon.
Yeah. No, and then we have a question. Oh, I think we just pulled it up at the same time. But we have a question kind of regarding Carr, but more about Pittman's value. So Gavin wants to know, are you guys leaning towards any particular situation for Pittman next season? Do you think he gets traded? Do you think they get Carr or Garoppolo? Or are they going to draft a quarterback? Obviously, Tyler mentioned earlier they're interested in a certain Will Levis. I don't think that's good for Michael Pittman. But I mean, we still have really no idea what's going to shake up. They seem to like their Band-Aid quarterback that they get rid of after a year and does, slightly less than mediocre. But and then I guess kind of leading into that is either way, is Pittman a hold or I don't know. What do we think?
I would lean against him. I would say least likely is him getting traded, just because I think if they're going to make a move up for Levis, I call him. If they're going to make a move up for Lettuce and Tomato, I don't think trading their number one wide receiver makes a whole lot of sense doing that. I just feel like they're going to look for other ways to keep Pittman if they're going to go up for Will Levis. I'm not sure whether they're going to end up with a rookie QB or free agent. It seems like reading the tea leaves that or the rookie is more likely. But I feel like he's been devalued at this point. For a guy who still had 99 receptions last year, I would say he's probably a hold. I'm not looking to sell him. I don't think there's much of a market. People are not aggressively buying Michael Pittman right now. So I would probably just hold him.
Yeah, if you have him on the roster,
they're not doing Band-Aids anymore.
Yeah,
I
agree.
So.
I agree completely. They've tried that 3 times now, and it's not worked 3 times in a row. I'm surprised the GM is still there because of that situation.
Oh, you missed my rant about failure Ballard. You missed it. It was over 6 minutes long.
Well,
there were so many receipts that we had. I mean, so many things that he did wrong, and yet he still is employed.
Yeah, and he also in the press conference said he will do everything he can, move heaven and earth to go get a quarterback if they think there's a difference maker. And if you're the Bears, I mean, the Colts would love to get ahead of the Texans and take their pick of the litter at quarterback, whoever it is. If it's Stroud, if it's Young, even if it's Will Levis. They're going to want to pick over the Texans, who have the number 2 pick. But if you're the Bears and you're looking at the Raiders and Panthers and the Falcons and other teams that might be positioning to move up, you only move back to pick 4. You could still get probably a top 2 player if the top quarterback go 1 and 2. The Colts are in a nice spot for the Bears to do a trade, and they have to draft one. You cannot do this Band-Aid approach and bring in Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz, it's been awful.
And I think, I mean, like you said, David, it's like if they're going to bring in a young guy, that it would make very little sense to get rid of the guy that's somehow been, getting 1,000 yards, 99 catches, like you said, with the ridiculous quarterbacks he's been getting thrown to. So,
and the rookie salary. I mean, Pittman is. What are we going to trade Pittman for a second round pick and get a guy that might be as good as Pittman? Like,
No.
He's not getting paid a lot of money. He's a second, he's got 2 more years on his contract. It's like going on rants. What did the Bears do when they traded for Chase Claypool with 1 year left on his contract and gave pick 32? Ridiculous. Like, that would be the opposite of this. Like, I think keeping Pittman makes the most sense. Not getting Garoppolo.
I mean, you know what I said about the Bears. They had an incompetent Ryan and an incompetent Matt as GM and head coach, and they just replaced them with another incompetent Ryan and an incompetent Matt. So not much has really changed. I thought that was one of my best speeches of all time when I did it. That was one of my best. Other than the Brandon Staley evisceration, that was
we call it the Matt Ryan speech.
Well, I have so many. I mean, at this point, there's so many speeches that I've given.
That's why you need titles.
Well, when I'm running for office, we can clip those as part of my campaign poster.
All right.
Next.
So moving on, we got 10-team start 10 Superflex Devontae Smith for a 24 first while in the middle of a rebuild. And they clarified that they're actually receiving Smith. I thought they were.
I want to thank the chat for having so many wide receiver questions based on the show title. But go ahead.
Absolutely. So they would be receiving Smith for a 24 first, and they already have 3 24 firsts along with 4 23 firsts.
It depends if it's your 2024 first, because if you're in the middle of a rebuild, how high are we talking about this pick going to land? I mean, Devontae Smith's a great player, but when we talk about 2024 draft, there's going to be some good quarterbacks occupying like the top 2 spots, probably Williams and May. And then there's probably going to be 2 or 3 position players who are going to be, if they're running backs, probably valued ahead of Smith. So, I mean, if that pick's got any chance landing top 2 in a rebuild, you're not sending it for Devontae Smith and Superflex.
Yeah, the first move you always make in a rebuild is acquire your pick or make sure you have all your picks. Then you don't go in a rebuild and then try to get your pick. In this, you said it perfectly. It all depends on where the picks are. If this team is also rebuilding, then I would rather the pick. If I'm getting Tyler's, he's rebuilding, and I'm getting his. I'm getting Devonta Smith for his first back. No, I'm not giving Tyler his first back for Devonta Smith.
Well, I always want my first back.
Especially we're talking about if you are in the middle of a rebuild. You go and trade a first for Devontae Smith that's projected to land high in the 24 draft. Now you're also adding points to your starting lineup and potentially, what's the word I'm looking for? Jeopardizing your own draft spot going into next year when you could have had one of those top 2 picks. He could knock you into the 3rd pick. So I think there's a lot of layers to that question. But if it's your own pick or one that's projected high in another, we need to be careful with that.
I think it's the kind of thing where we see that Devonta Smith is great, but in any year in a Superflex draft, there are going to be 3 or 4 players that are better. There just are. Devonta Smith is never going to be a top 5 dynasty wide receiver. So never. So
I wouldn't say never.
Devonta Smith? I literally think it's not possible.
I wouldn't say never.
Stephon
Diggs was he top 5?
He never really quite got there. Because his
right.
breakout was so late.
I'm thinking about his age.
I definitely never ranked him there. But also, Stephon Diggs to me is different from Devonta Smith.
I think they're similar players, similar types of players where I could see Smith having, if he breaks free of Philadelphia, having a really good – I think he's got the talent if he landed in the right situation.
I wish Devonta Smith were a little bigger.
I'm not really concerned with that. He's tall enough. He's skinny. I don't care about skinny. He's tall enough. He's big enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it's where that pick is going to be, and right now it's still kind of too unclear. But if you know for a fact you're giving away a pick of, let's say, a top contender, are we in for it? You're presuming it's a bottom
definitely.
3 pick,
Definitely.
right?
Yeah.
That's an
Well,
easy.
let me ask you this.
But it's
Are there any receivers in this year's draft that you would take over Devonta Smith? I'd say no, right? For me, it's no. I don't know. You guys
I
feel
can
differently.
understand some of you arguing Jackson Smith, but I mean, I would just take the safe thing in Devontae Smith there. Smith would have to get drafted pretty highly. I mean, if Jackson Smith and Dribble got drafted in the top 15 picks, all right, now I'm thinking about it. Like, all right, we'll see. But right now, today, no.
What team are you a fan of, David?
Baltimore. I'm a Ravens fan.
Oh, okay.
From New England.
So
Baltimore fan in Patriots territory.
So if Jackson Smith and Jigba went to Baltimore, would you be happy?
I would be happy because I think he would drop more in rookie drafts than I would drop him in my rankings. So I would think I would be getting a lot of them. So yeah, I would be happy. And as a Ravens fan, I would be happy. For my Rashad Bateman shares, not as much, but I think he's pretty devalued.
Are you still a Rashad Bateman truther?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
I think I'm a believer in Rashad Bateman, yes.
He's definitely on my list of players I hate the most.
Well, I think it's interesting what you guys just talked about, because if you do a startup and you put the draft picks in the startup, it takes a little bit of the value from the draft picks, in the sense of you see them next to these players, and like Devonta Smith, if we're taking him over every receiver in your one quarterback leagues, you're essentially taking him over the 103, 104, and I don't think any of us put Devonta Smith worth the 103, 104. But if you put the players' names to it, then we just had a discussion.
And
that's a great point. So this is why you very much helped me here, promoting something. I have, and this is the most helpful thing I think I have on my Patreon at the moment, because it's certainly better than my actual rookie ranks. I have a pick value chart. So I just I have it so that every player, there's a column right to the right where you can see their pick value compared to that player. So Devonta Smith in 1 QB comes in between the 102 and the 103, and in the Superflex between 104 and 105. So there you go.
I think that's a good point too, especially like a lot of trades. Like if you remove the player names and just say, all right, what is this in startup picks? Sometimes it just completely shifts the perspective of the deal, especially like a 2-for-1. Like say you're trading one QB for another QB and a wide receiver. And you're like, all right, well, I don't know. And then you look at a startup picks, you're like, well, I'm only moving back a few picks in the first and picking up like a 4th round startup pick, and sometimes it starts to make more sense. So I think when you do remove the names and just kind of go back to value, it's a good check and balance to kind of evaluate trades.
Yeah. Make sure you guys are mock drafting people. Don't go into your $100 startups or $50 startups and start just blindly picking players. Mock
$150 startups. Do you know some of the levels of
1,000
startups that people ask me for help in?
$1,000 startups. I mean, anyway.
Yeah, even I get a little bit stressed when someone's like, "Okay, I'm doing this $1,000 startup. I'm going to trust you with every one of them."
Yeah, no, we had Doug Orth on the show. He doesn't do anything less than $1,000 startup, but
I don't do that.
But
if someone's willing to give me the money, which by the way has happened for me many times, please, I'm very open to this business arrangement. But no, I would never. I play fantasy football for actually playing fantasy football. Like I play for fun. Like I don't play fantasy football to make money.
But the point is that mock drafts are free. You can mess it up for free. $20, $10, whatever. Even if it's a free league, you don't want to go in there and just start trying to build the house without a blueprint. I
also suggest making your own rankings, even if you don't create content.
Yeah,
make your own rankings. Like you can start with, if you're newer to all this, you can start with someone else's and then move the players around. I mean, if that's always a good starting point, you feel free to start with mine. I don't care. start with mine, and then if you disagree, you can move some of the players around, whatever you want to do. I don't have a problem with that. But you should make your own rankings.
I agree, 100%.
That'll help you.
100%.
Absolutely.
I offer rankings as well, and it's still, I would suggest to everyone, don't even just use my, you need to have your own, so that way you have an idea of what you want to do. You can have an idea of what players you think will be available at certain picks. So
I'm fine with people using mine,
but I would recommend to at least target the players you want. Have a cheat sheet, something.
What I don't
yourself.
suggest is going in with nothing. Use mine, that's fine. Like if you just draft off my rankings, totally fine with that. But don't go into a startup draft with no rankings and just kind of do it off the top of your head. Like that is a recipe for disaster. Like go in with something, whether it's your own sheet, my rankings, David's, whoever's you want to go in with something. Like don't go in empty-handed. Because at the end of the day, like failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Like we all know that. And those who prepare more for their startup drafts are going to do better. That's just how it is. That's how it isn't with anything, not just Dynasty. So, same principles apply to this as anything else. Expectations for Ridley. Interesting. What are your expectations for Ridley?
I just dropped a case for Calvin Ridley today.
Are you a Ridley truther?
Currently pinned to my Twitter profile. I am basically all the way in on Calvin Ridley. I am expecting, at the worst, a wide receiver 2 finish, and I believe he does have legitimate top 5 upside.
Oh, man. Okay. We couldn't disagree more.
We're talking about a guy who at essentially every point in his career has just been one of the top prospects, one of the top producers at that level. He was the number 1 wide receiver recruit in his class. He put up over 1,000 yards as a true freshman at Alabama. After 3 years, he declared early. He was a first-round NFL draft pick. His rookie season, he put up 60 receptions, over 800 yards, 10 touchdowns as a rookie. In 13 games, he paced for over 75 receptions, 1,000 yards in his second season. He put up over 1,300 yards, 90 receptions in his third season. So we're talking about all the way through high school, college, through the NFL. This guy is stud top 5 receiver. The only wide receivers who had, or players who had more receiving yards than him that year were Kelsey, Jefferson, Diggs, Devontae, and I think that's it. Maybe one more player. It's off the top of my head.
No.
And then everything went off the tracks. We had the mental health issues, but still, even that year, he had over 50 targets in 5 games. He's pacing for 160 targets. That would have placed 5th in the NFL that year. And then we thought he was going to get traded in 2022. Before that could happen, he gets suspended for the whole year. Now he's coming back. There are concerns about the layoff. But again, he didn't have an injury. This is a guy who's been healthy, who's just coming off of basically rest. He's had plenty of time to stay in shape. He's got all sorts of extra motivation, one, to restore his reputation. He's playing now with the best quarterback play, best offensive system he's ever been in. Atlanta had a losing record all 4 years that he was there. Now he gets Trevor Lawrence, who just had 4,100 passing yards, 66% completion, 25-8 touchdown to interception ratio. We saw what he did in the playoffs.
Oh, Trevor Lawrence is great.
We're talking about the system as well. They were 9th in passing attempts. You look at Christian Kirk, never a 1,000-yard receiver. He put up 80 receptions and 1,100 yards this year. Evan Ingram, over 70 receptions and 750 yards for the first time in his career. Zay Jones, never topped 56 receptions, 652 yards. He put up 82 receptions for 800 yards and 5 touchdowns this year. We're talking about lower-level players elevated by this system, by the quarterback, by the staff around him. Now we talk about plugging in a player like Calvin Ridley. We like the upside here is Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs, Trevor Lawrence to Calvin Ridley. That's what the upside here, if he shows up healthy, motivated in 2023, and he clicks with this system. It might be a little bit lower than medium range outcomes because, again, Christian Kirk's better than Gabriel Davis. Evan Ingram is better than Dawson Knox. So I would say his medium range is not going to be top 5. He's not going to be drafted as top 5. But in Dynasty, he's a wide receiver 32 right now. You're getting him multiple rounds after these other stud wide receivers who are old. He's only 28. People are just saying, he's 29, 30. He's 28. He'll be 28 for the entire season. You can get him as your 4th, maybe even 5th wide receiver in the 7th, 8th round of a startup. I am taking that all day. I'm targeting him all day at that price point.
I'm just good. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm good on him. Never. I think I've learned my lesson. Like, I've just learned my lesson on these players who miss significant periods of time for off-field issues. I think the Deshaun Watson situation is in the back of my head.
Deshaun Watson, number one, was a quarterback. Number two, he was suspended the whole regular season, and he was thrown in the week he came back when he wasn't allowed to practice with the team.
The other thing,
and that's a totally different
if
comparison
Calvin
than
Ridley-
a wide receiver who gets to play a whole offseason with his new quarterback.
if Calvin Ridley had looked good at all in 2021, I'd be more in.
He was
but
on
he
pace
looked like
for
straight crap.
160 targets.
No.
The whole
I
team
understand
did.
the targets were there, but if you watched the Calvin Ridley 2021 film, he was horrible. He was actively horrible. I mean, he was terrible. I mean, all of the efficiency numbers went to complete crap. I'm not going to blame it all on.
So did the whole team. The whole team was terrible.
He basically went from one of the, very highly efficient receiver to just complete disaster. I mean,
that's a 5-game sample of
I'm aware of that, but we have a 5-game sample. Then he missed the rest of the year and then missed all of 2022. If he were 25, I would be more on your side, but he's not. He's 28. This is just the kind of player where I'm just like, I'm good. I'll let someone else draft him. The value upside in Dynasty for me just isn't there. And I'm just good. I don't want it. I won't draft him. I just don't. These are the kind of players I never like. These kind of players who miss long periods of time, or I think I've learned my lesson. I've tried to be in on the bounce back too much, and I've been burned by being in on it more than I've been burned by just passing. Because there's a lot of players where I feel like I should have just talked myself back into it. Like Cam Akers is another one. There are just players who I feel like, and I'm trying to learn that lesson with Javonte Williams this time, and not being in on him, so I don't make the same mistake. Deshaun Watson, I feel like I was even too in on. Even though I didn't like him as a person, I feel like I still thought he would come in and be good, and he wasn't. So I just feel that it's just not going to be for me. It's just not going to be for me. I'll let someone else draft him. Like I said, if he were 24 or 25, I feel like the value upside's there. But even if he hits, I'm never going to trust him long term. So I'd have to try to sell him. And because he's older, the value's not going to be there. So I just can't. Not at his current price. I mean, what did you say? I have him at wide receiver 42. So I'm pretty out.
I have him at exactly what you said. I don't know where you got
32.
I
think that's his KTC right now.
Okay.
There's a couple other sites too you can check, like Fantasy Calendar
Yeah,
as well.
I mean, I'm assuming he's probably somewhere in that late 20, early 30 range. But I mean, I think I'm basically falling right in the middle where, I mean, I see the upside, and when he's been there, like, he's been good. Obviously, the last time we saw him in that 5-game stretch, he didn't look great, but I think we can kind of attribute that to, he was having mental health issues and a lot of other things just kind of didn't really go well in that sense. But I also don't think he should be just like an afterthought, and like he's not going to make a big difference in that offense. Like, I don't know if at this point when he goes in, like, if we can for sure say he'll be the number one option or, be the 1B even with Kirk or anything like that. But like he's been an elite player, like you said, and started from a very young age. And it's just like, it's hard not to be more in on it just with what we saw from Trevor Lawrence this year. Obviously just his ascension and his ability to have 3 fantasy relevant receivers in that offense. Zay Jones came out of nowhere, and Evan Ingram just absolute monster end of the year. And so I do think there's room for at least 2-3 like viable fantasy weapons in that offense, but it's tough to make that case of top 5. But I do think if he's around this range come closer to the season, whatnot, like, I do think I'll be taking some shots, because I think the upside definitely outweighs, okay, fine. If he's only a wide receiver 3, all right, I paid, wide receiver 3 praise for him. But the upside is there, I do think, for that wide receiver 1 type, explosion. So it's tough. I think I'm kind of in the middle. Dave,
What
anything
about
to
you,
add?
Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got, but all sides of the coin right here. And so if you have Trevor Lawrence in your top 5 or 6 quarterbacks and you don't have any of his receivers in the top 30, then that's the question. Is like someone's going to do something. I don't think you're going to see it evenly spread out. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. First, Ridley still needs to be reinstated. He has not been reinstated yet. We need to make sure he's going to be reinstated. If they do think he's going to be, or they wouldn't have made the trade. Ingram, if he doesn't sign back, that opens up a whole lot of targets, a whole lot of production. If he does sign back, then that lowers the upside of Ridley. Zay Jones is very cuttable. I don't think they cut him, but if Zay Jones were to get cut, the contract up right now, they could save quite a bit by moving on from him, but they could also keep him for one more year. So if all those guys are back, I think the upside for a top 5 finish is not there. But I'm not. I mean, you think you're buying a wide receiver 3 and you're getting wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 2 upside.
They also definitely can't cut Zay Jones. His contract's underwater, so I don't know.
What do you mean?
I don't know about that. As in, the dead cap's more than the cap hit, so he's going to be there. It's 10.5 cap hit and 10.6 dead. So no, he's definitely going to be there.
Potential out is 2024.
Yeah, I would assume they would take it, but I think there were some people like linking the Jaguars to a wide receiver in the draft. I don't know if that's really going to be the case. I do think they re-signed Evan Ingram, though. I would be stunned if they let Evan Ingram get away. All right, here. I'll pull up this. Okay. I appreciate the super chat. And I don't really know. Honestly, I don't really know what to say about this. I mean, it's true. I've definitely
like they have to be managed. Mental health is a disease, and so depression, those kind of things. I am a mental health professional, and it's what I do. I mean, they have to be managed. Exactly what he's saying. Depression doesn't just go away. You can't just take a pill and it's gone, or go to a couple of therapy sessions and it's gone. So yeah, like it's something that Ridley is going to have to deal with. It can definitely be managed, and it's something that he can control. But yeah, those things are still there, and if it's not properly managed, it can spike up. We've seen that with other players with other issues and things like that.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add to that. We'll have to see. We'll have to see really when he comes back, like how it goes.
I think it's there. It's just like an added layer of just uncertainty. Obviously we hope he's, doing better and he's ready to come back to the football field and, be elite like he was back a couple of years ago, but it's not certain in any way that he's going to be the same. He's going to be in the same headspace, things like that, which, obviously it sucks that we have to like put that into perspective in terms of the value in fantasy, but that is, just an added little thing that just kind of got to consider. But we'll move on to another, I think, wide receiver that's been talked about a lot. Are you selling Ayuk with Lance likely to start? Did he reach his ceiling while being efficient, or is there more to come?
What can you sell Brandon Ayuk for right now? I don't see a profitable way to sell him.
Let's see, where do we have?
I see profitable ways to buy him. I think they're in that range. Like he's at least now he's got these situational concerns, but there are plenty of other wide receivers in that range who also have situational concerns, like George Pickens, Terry McLaurin. Like Traylon Burks even. Like, if we can trade a different wide receiver with situational concerns for Ayuk and plus, like I would buy that. But I don't see who are you selling Ayuk for plus. Like maybe Rashad Bateman plus, but for me, I just don't see many avenues out of profit because I think he's a good player in a bad situation. Ayuk.
Here's an example of what I was talking about before about putting the picks in the draft, like putting the rookie players in this mock draft. Ayuk should never have gone where he went, but he went ahead of Addison and Quentin Johnston in this draft. He went 7-1, and it is a super flex. So
I don't have an issue with 7-1. I think that's more people devaluing rookie picks early in early offseason startups, which I can understand saying those rookie picks should have went higher. But 7-1, I'm fine paying the 701 for Brandon Ayuk in a startup.
Yeah, and then you said Bateman, who happened to be his next pick at 8-12. So you're getting a full round discount on Bateman. So, what is that pick wise? Is that a Bateman plus a mid-second, that kind of
thing? I think you can say that with any wide receiver in Bateman. Like, I guess that's just me. Oh, so maybe for Bateman plus a 2. But, like,
well, Calvin Ridley went in right in the middle of that.
I would sell Ayuk for Ridley plus. Like,
yeah,
I can
so
get
Calvin
Ridley
went 7-8.
That's interesting right there.
And Ayuk went 7-1.
If I could get Ridley and a 2024, 2025 too, even, like, I'll probably take Ridley in the 2.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like we already have the problem where that offense, they have McCaffrey, they have Kittle, they have Debo, they just have 3-4 elite mouths to feed in that just even passing attack, which they can't really do even with a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo or Brock Purdy. And now you're going to add Trey Lance into that mix and expect him to do anything near that. It just doesn't seem possible. And so I do think, kind of looking at even my own ranks, I feel like the 49ers might have to take a little bit more of a bump down than I already have. But I think that's just also has to do with some of the mysterious nature of that position right now where, obviously we kind of expect Trey Lance now probably to be the front runner for that starting job, but you kind of don't really know at this moment with all that's happened. But I like that specific trade you brought up. I actually really like that one to see if you can buy Ridley plus for Ayuk. I think that's intriguing. And that's like, you're not really you're not really going a tier down. Like I have those two in the same tier in my rankings. And like, obviously one's a little bit higher and one's a little lower in the tier, but you're not even leaving the tier. And if you could get a second kind of in that, I think that's worth the shot because, I mean, at the end of the day, even if we're just looking at player and player, I do think Ridley has more upside and like more likelihood that he could finish as a top, 5, top 10 receiver, like you were saying, rather than Ayuk, who just has just too many weapons in an offense that is not going to be throwing the ball that much, barring any crazy, someone going there that we didn't really expect.
I do want to be like hesitant of like locking him into, because one thing I'm just cautious of is like locking players into bad situations now, especially young players. Like Brandon Ayuk, I don't even know if he's 25 yet. This will be his 4th season next year. So I believe that's his last season contractually with an option. They can exercise. He was a 1st-round pick, so I believe they can exercise a 5th-year option. But after that, like, he could be free. We don't know that they don't move Debo or Kittle at some point. Like, I just don't know that Ayuk is going to be trapped forever in a bad situation. I think he's a really good player. So I'm not panic selling him because I'm scared that Trey Lance might start in 2023, and I don't like that if that's my angle. Like, I would just be open to selling him, but not just like, I got to get out before Trey Lance takes over, Brandon Ayuk's dead. Like, that's not my...
It's so hard because he is kind of your sell high candidate, but then you have the uncertainty at the quarterback position that puts some concern in people. But, there are some fans out there that are taking him pretty early. I don't think 7.1 is too early, but it still is, it's pretty high when you're considering, some of the other players around that position. But I mean, I do like Ayuk. I think that, he's a first round talent, and he's the best receiver on that team, in my opinion.
I mean, I think that point you made about, when you're trying to value someone as opposed to like a pick, but also then when you're in a mock with those same players that could be those picks, like I think I think it's just so interesting because you couldn't get 104, 105, 106 or something for Ayuk straight up, but then you're looking at these mocks with rookies involved, and it's like, oh, he's going ahead of that 105, who we presume to be that 104, 105, 106 kind of range. So he's going ahead of those receivers, ahead of, this other running. And it's like, that's just super interesting to me because I certainly don't do probably enough startup mocks where you kind of have those picks involved this early. So to kind of hear that,
we might have to do that.
I think we should definitely run that in our mocks. Having the rookie
I will
in.
consider doing that. Oh, look at what just got added to the scheduling show sheet. Oops. Oh, look, it says Dynasty startup mock with picks. Oh, how did that get there? That sounds like a great idea.
All right. How about another quick one we got here was 10 teams start 10 Superflex, give Jamar Chase, receive Tyreek and Olave. Wide receiver room is currently thin. Only guys are Chase, Burks, London, Elijah Moore.
Oh, man. I don't ever, if I'm ever giving Jamar Chase, I don't love it. Usually, almost never.
It's really hard to say sell Jamar Chase, like to actually utter those words. It's not a bad return, though. It's not.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I'll keep Jamar Chase.
I just don't think. Yeah, I get it's not a bad return, but it's just tough.
You get a future 1-2 swap in your favor. Add to that. All right, maybe. Now we're talking.
If I'm trading Jamar Chase, I want an overpay.
That's the thing.
This is good, but this is not a smash accept. And if it's not a smash accept, I'm not going to take it.
You can only sell a player like Jamar Chase one time.
That's
once. That's
also
it.
For me. Yep. I have some concerns with both. Tyreek Hill, we know, is already going to be 29 when the season starts. He's never going to gain whatever his value is now. It's the highest it's going to ever be. It's never going up. And then, it can't go up. Literally can't.
He can't produce more. He can't get younger. He can't produce more. He can't get younger.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Hill. Chase's value can't really go up either.
Well, I was saying he could go from 2 to 1.
Maybe. Olave, I feel like, has a lot of room to swing, but he's someone, he could go up in value. He also could go down. It kind of depends on how it goes. I just want to keep Jamar Chase.
Especially, I think a lot of people bumped him a lot up after the season, Olave. So I do think, while we expect him to continue rising, there's room for him to fall back down again with how much he kind of jumped up the wide receiver ranks.
Yeah, and being 10 team, you want to have, some difference makers, and Jamar Chase obviously is a difference maker. Tyreek Hill is a difference maker, but you're not getting him for close to as long as you are Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is 24 years old, is 23, 24. He's super young, and I like Olave a lot, but there's a lot of uncertainty with what's going on with that quarterback situation, and we know exactly what Chase can be dealing with.
Yeah. So, kind of moving back to that, the Bears wouldn't move back for nothing for sure. Do you guys think they would want more than Pittman on top of 104? I'm assuming.
Well, I think they want 104 future first, and then maybe something else.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe Pittman's involved, but it's not like Pittman and that 104 gets you that 101. So I don't think that's really.
Players are players are rarely involved in those move ups. They are sometimes, but I mean, normally you're seeing picks traded for players, but those move ups, Draft Tech has a great chart that you can use. Last year, kind of fact checked it against some trades that happened. Move the Sticks references it a lot. It's drafttech.com, and they have a trade value chart, and it shows pretty much exactly what the Colts would have to pay for to move up, and it's a first round pick plus a future first, 104, and I believe it's their third round pick. The way they value future first is just pick 16 is 1,000 points. So the future firsts are, worth 1,000 points.
Yeah. All right. Moving. What rookie picks are these players worth right now? Burks, London, Dotson. I think, Tyler, you probably have
I do
something in your ranking specifically. I don't have pick
values. And honestly, let's see. So Superflex, I have London between the 104 and 105. Burks between the 105 and 106. But honestly, that feels kind of high.
I've got London higher. I think he would be a little higher. I have him like 104. I'd be fine paying. I think London would be my wide receiver one in this class. So after Bijan and the top two quarterbacks go, I'm fine paying any one of those picks for Drake London. I think you can probably get him a little cheaper, but I'm fine paying as high as 104.
I just feel like for me, I'm definitely going to have Bijan, the two quarterbacks ahead of London. And then the odds are that there's, you only have to like one more player. Or something bad could happen to London in that he actually has Desmond Ridder as his quarterback.
But I think he had such a good rookie season like that, and he's so young still. Like, I'm still fine even if he's in hell for another year.
Yeah. I mean, they certainly, got it going a little bit at the end of the year, too. They seem to find some type of little chemistry. But, yeah.
Burks, let me see where I have. I think basically after he's got to be below the top three wide receivers, just based on how many hiccups there were, the situation not being great. Even though I think Burks year, he needs to be at least behind Bijan and Gibbs, the two quarterbacks and the top three wide receivers. So that puts him 108 or later. Then we're talking about maybe Anthony Richardson gets in there. Maybe Boutte, we'll see what landing spot he gets, how high I could see him being preferred over Burke. Say he goes to Kansas City, something like that. So I would say probably I'd be comfortable in the 109, 110 range. That's what I want to pay. It's going to be probably tough to pry him for that though.
Yeah.
Yeah. People like picks. They like shiny new toys, and they'll be more interested in sending 24s for these guys. People they want the new things. It's like a new car. These guys lost value already because you drove them off the lot.
So true.
All right. We got when Hopkins gets traded, who's your preferred sell between Hopkins and Hollywood?
That market kind of quieted down. I mean, we were hearing about Hopkins being traded, and then suddenly we're not hearing about it. I still think it happens. I don't know. I mean, Hollywood Brown is someone I believe in.
And how do you sell a 31-year-old receiver in the offseason, even if he gets a good land?
No.
What are you going to get?
Let's say DeAndre Hopkins gets traded to the Chiefs.
You get a future first, sure.
Well, that is your last chance to trade him. You'll never have he'll never be worth more than the day he's traded to the Chiefs.
But if he's not, I just don't see him being a sell candidate really this offseason. Maybe.
No, what I'm saying is wait for the day he gets traded, and the day he gets traded, that'll be the most he's ever worth again. And then you put him on the block, see what you can get. If you like the return, just take it that day. It's never going to get better. Or if you don't like the return, then you're just going to take the rest of his career and take the points, and it is what it is. But those are your choices.
And Hollywood, I don't see him being a sell candidate either. Even if Hopkins does get traded, there's so much hate for Kyler Murray right now. And you throw in the injury. We don't know what kind of quarterback play. Hollywood's ranked at valued at like wide receiver 35 right now. Like he's not valued higher.
Well, not for me.
I have him higher.
I have him at 23, so I don't.
Yeah, I've got him much higher as well, but the market doesn't, so I don't see him being like, oh, Hopkins, let's just go out and sell Hollywood.
Is that KTC?
There's a couple I checked. KTC, you can check Fantasy Calc is another one to cross-reference. I'm not sure where he's at, but he was in the like mid to low 30s on KTC. Let's see where he's at on Fantasy Calc.
Yeah. I noticed that my ranks often tend to align more with DLF's ADP because like it's right spot on for both Calvin Ridley
32.
and
they have him at 32 on Fantasy Calc. Hollywood.
Maybe I'm just in the DLF bubble.
And I agree. I have him in the mid 20s as well.
But yeah, Dave, you said you had to run, so give the people one last plug.
All right. Follow me at Dynasty Doors. Check us out, SGPN Fantasy Football on YouTube. We got our 4-round mock drafts going on. Did some shorts, 15 seconds per pick. Adios.
Love it.
Later, Dave.
Have a good one.
Dave Squad.
All right. Let's see.
Yeah. All right. Now we got.
Ooh. Whoopsie.
Oh.
Did I do that?
No, I think he must have disconnected something by accident.
Okay.
Oh. Right.
We're fixing it. Nope.
Oh.
Okay, forget that for now.
We get
technical thing.
We'll get one question in while we wait for David. But if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, would you be looking to sell immediately or in the offseason, or are you trying to hold Elijah Moore until the season?
I don't know, man. Elijah Moore was so disappointing.
Because, I mean, the second Aaron Rodgers goes there.
Oh, there we go.
Like you were saying, with someone obviously completely different age range, but his boost is going to be, it's going to be there the second he gets that quarterback, even if it's not Rodgers, even if we're looking at Derek Carr, like he's going to get a bump up those ranks. But I feel like it's one of those, if you believed in Elijah Moore after his rookie season and you're still kind of holding now, I feel like the upside's just kind of there to not sell for what you could based on this news. Because like, what are you really going to be able to get for Elijah Moore? Say right now, Aaron Rodgers, breaking news, he's on the Jets. It's like, what is the most you're really going to be able to get for Elijah Moore?
Oh, it's funny you mentioned that. He actually was just traded to the Jets.
Get out of town. Was he?
No.
Sick bastard.
but
Here, look, so like, there's one more thing. Look up at your ceiling. A Gullible's written on it.
You're the worst.
Oh, it's so true.
You are not nicer than Derek Carr.
Oh, no fucking way am I nicer than Derek Carr. We all know this. Come on.
But yeah,
I'm looking at my rankings and I'm trying to think like where, let's say Aaron Rodgers does today. Look at that. He already got traded to the Jets. Where does Elijah Moore go? Like, I'm thinking probably like he's back in like the Christian Kirk, like maybe around Jahan Dotson. He's probably still going to be lower.
He's not that high for me.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what are you going to sell him for? His value's not going to, I don't think, go that high. Maybe if I could like sell a Dotson for Elijah Moore plus, I would be interested in that. But I think he's probably just a hold, and you just hope he can just recapture some of that rookie season magic where he was an efficient player. He was good on a per route basis. He's a good prospect, second round pick. Like he was productive in college, early declare. Like he has a good prospect profile, decent rookie year. If he gets Aaron Rodgers, I think you just hold the dude, especially if it's a good year at his age. His value's going to go up pretty high, more than it will in the offseason when all these like last season negatives are still baked in.
Yeah, definitely right on board with you there. And we got another. Does Khalil Herbert take a large leap with Montgomery gone, or does he just take Montgomery's share in the Bears draft the next Khalil Herbert?
They could easily draft the next David Montgomery, and Khalil Herbert is still Khalil Herbert.
It's very true.
But I would say it seems like Monty's probably gone, like as a free agent, and Herbert was eating into it already. He was great in the advanced metrics. He was second in the league in yards after contact per attempt, behind only Tony Pollard. So he's a good, efficient rusher. We know that, but he's not going to catch the ball in this system. The rushing workload is to be determined. If they bring in another rusher. So I'm not crazy thrilled about Khalil Herbert. Like if Monty goes, I'm gonna be trying to sell him for Rashad Bateman and a plus, like a 2-3 swap or something like that. I don't think he's terrible, but I don't think he's a better real life player than a fantasy asset. I think
Khalil Herbert is just the guy.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that want to believe he's more than just a guy.
He's
just been limited. I think a lot of people are trying to make, even Tony Pollard like comparisons where he's just limited.
He's more likely to be Madison. He's more likely to be Alexander Madison, where people want him to be the guy and he's just never the guy.
And I think, if Montgomery's gone, there's almost zero chance that they're not using some of that cap space or a pick on someone else coming in. And that might not be okay. Like they brought in a new guy who is the new David Montgomery and Herbert's stuck in his own Herbert role. Like that might not be the case. He might get, it might be closer to a 50-50 split, whatever it is. But it just doesn't seem likely that Herbert is going to take this large leap and all of a sudden be the lead back in that offense. I think they are too bad of an offense. They have too much money to spend and too many resources to spend on things like a better running back. And obviously a lot of other pieces they kind of have to fill on both sides of the ball. But it just, I really find it hard to believe that Herbert's going to, like, anything that happens with involving the team and that running back room this year is going to lead to, Herbert is the lead back in Chicago and his value has gone up like exponentially since Montgomery left and they signed no one or drafted no one. So I'd be hesitant on, trying to buy him necessarily. Like, it depends. Obviously, if you're just throwing away a third or a fourth, then okay, fine. Like that's not a move that I'm against really, but I think, I do think I know you don't sound like it, Tyler, but there are people that genuinely think like he's really efficient in his limited sample. And yes, he hasn't gotten a crazy workload, but he's had, a couple games where he was the lead back and he did rush for a lot of yards and it looked pretty solid in.
Do you think they re-signed Montgomery
games.
Or not?
I think they're going to throw their money elsewhere, like overpay slightly for some other running back that's barely better than Montgomery.
Even that, we talk about this draft class. They don't even have to invest a high pick. There's going to be good, decent running back prospects in the third, fourth round of the NFL draft where they could spend just a fourth round pick, and all of a sudden we're talking about this guy pushes Khalil Herbert out of the lead role. Like it could happen, even if it's not a significant investment. And even though the efficiency metrics are good and he's good after contact, that's also a bit of a byproduct of playing with Justin Fields. Like he definitely benefited from that. And for a guy who doesn't catch the pass, doesn't catch the ball, doesn't have a good prospect profile, not highly drafted, like he's just not someone you want to be caught holding the bag on if Montgomery leaves. And he does see a temporary offseason value spike. Second Montgomery leaves, he's going on the block. We're shooting out offers everywhere we got him.
I think Montgomery's going to stay. Personally.
Yeah.
They're just so short. Like they need so many things that I actually feel like if Montgomery's willing to accept something more reasonable, that he'll stay. And are people lining up to pay David Montgomery a lot of money?
The thing is, though, if you're David Montgomery, do you want to stay with a team who was borderline saying Khalil Herbert? Like there were games where they were just they were going the hot hand, publicly declaring we're going to go with the hot hand. Like if you're David Montgomery, is that the situation you want to come back to? If they're not going to pay you good money, like I think you hit the open market. You're looking to go somewhere where, hey, we're going to give you money. Hey, we want to give you the ball. Like
I just don't think anyone is interested in giving him much money.
That's true.
Yeah,
I do agree with that.
I am a little worried. I think I've brought this up before that they're going to throw upwards of 10 or 12 million for some guy like Tony Pollard, like just because they have money and they're like, let's spend it. So I'm
Tony
I'm
Pollard's not getting out of Dallas.
probably not. But
Jerry Jones will use the franchise tag on Tony Pollard. As ridiculous as that is.
He likes offensive playmakers too much to let him go. Maybe before
yeah.
the injury, but like especially I feel like now, like if his
That's
market's
fair.
not crazy, Dallas probably would pay Tony Pollard.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. We got a couple, howdy. Thank you for watching. Smash the thumbs up. Never been in here live, so it's fun to be able to ask questions. Absolutely. I mean, we're here.
Well, now
we're here.
there's going to be even more opportunities to get in live. Oh, and there's also another show concept that I guess I can announce is going to be happening. I will be doing, I haven't decided when or how often, but I'm going to be doing a show where I take questions in my Patreon Discord and then I record a solo show that's going to be released to everybody. But the only way you can ask questions for that show is if you're in my Patreon Discord. So, the questions are for patrons only. It's not going to be live. I'm going to record it solo and record my answers to some of the questions from the Patreon. So it'll give you a little bit more insight into what I do on there. And I'll be publishing that on here every once in a while. So just look for that. They'll be like 15 to 30 minutes solo. But yeah, just look for that. I finally found a way. I did Patreon only shows for a while, but I just felt like, honestly, like they weren't watched enough. But if I let only patrons ask the questions and everyone watch the show, then maybe it's kind of a good balance that makes it kind of worth it for everybody. So we'll see if that works, how that works out. But just look for that on the channel over the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Ed, as always, you've been looking forward to this one. Thank you. Then we had a non-football question. I'm curious too.
Sure.
Are you a cat or a dog person?
I'm not really. I would never have my own pet.
Dogs
Okay.
all day. I'm not a cat hater, but I don't know how you could pick a cat over a dog. Come on.
It's tough. I mean, my best friend and roommate downstairs just got a 8-week-old puppy. He's a little bit loud, keeping some people up at night, like a real baby.
Loud puppies are very interesting. I really like those.
Yeah, because you never had your own, he says. Yeah. You like it for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is very cute, but
it's like a baby.
I think this
baby's so cute. Not till you live with him every day.
Yeah, right. Or even live above him, honestly.
Oh, we need a Dave to give us opinion on babies.
I have zero. So, I would like to keep that way for a little bit.
Yeah, no, other day, but because I have 0 babies and I don't think I ever will have one.
But so I think this was about Ayuk. He will be way overdrafted.
I'm not sure.
Or Ridley. Yeah, I guess if he falls into the 6th or 7th, he'd be good value. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd agree with that. And I don't know if I've heard something.
Oh, it's just saying that the compensation escalates if they actually get more out of Ridley. If he actually plays and remains on the roster.
And then we have a very interesting question from FF Lefty, who's always watching here, and we appreciate you. But offseason is a time to get better. What's the thing you all have improved on the most since last spring?
I've become more humble.
Sounds facetious.
Oh, it's so. I've now become more humble.
For me, I would just say it's being like schedule oriented and like writing everything down meticulously, planning on my calendar and just kind of planning ahead a little bit, sticking to the to-do list and actually like writing goals like down on paper.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely been a big part. Obviously, fantasy and football related, but oh. Hello.
Yeah. Are we frozen?
Earth to. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm not frozen. I don't
know what's going on here, but I don't know. Improving.
I would like to say Dynasty Fantasy Football. I'd like to think I got a little bit better in the past year.
I think
only
I've
been
gotten
doing it
better
a
for
bit.
sure.
What's the thing you got worse at?
The thing I got worse at, probably doing YouTube shows.
Yeah, I don't do much YouTube either.
No,
hard.
I don't
hard
know.
to keep a schedule with that.
No, that I've been better with. The scheduling part. I've just definitely felt, I've definitely felt like more exhausted. Like you definitely see me being like burnt out and jaded, like constantly. Whereas I feel like I used to be able to hide it better.
But what are you going to do to improve on that?
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that one.
What even happened?
I got a FaceTime from a random number, and it came through on my laptop as well, and that just messed everything up. Not sure, but what I was saying is, football and fantasy related, but just in general too. A lot of what you were saying, just becoming a little bit more organized and schedule oriented, writing down and like figuring out what I'm doing at what time, what blocks of the day, and making sure I get just things done that I need to know to do, or that I know I need to do.
I would say another thing I've gotten a lot better at is not getting dragged into nonsense on Twitter in the comments.
Oh,
like do not
better. I've gotten much better at that.
To comments like unless it's in a genuine like just kind manner. Like it's a trap. It's just a trap most of the time. It's a lot of people trying to drag you into nonsense in comments. Like just take some time. Posting ghosting's healthy. Let it marinate a little bit. Think about your response if you even want to give one. Then come back to it later. Just
use your block and mute button.
Less impulsive, and use the mute. Especially, I try to use the mute more than the block. Like I don't want to have to block people, but if they're just coming in,
I have no problem with blocking people.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it either. But definitely use those as well.
I have over 1,000.
It's your timeline. Yeah, like you don't owe anything to random internet strangers. Like if they're not good for your mental health, they're not popping up in your notifications in good ways, just remove them, mute them, block, whatever you need to do. But I think once you can figure out how to do that, Twitter's not so bad.
It's not that bad.
Especially
post your stuff. I found my one retort where I kind of just flip it back. Like most of the negativity I get is based on my trivia and people just saying like, oh, I hate this guy. He hides the right answer. Or, like I can't find the right answer. All this stuff. Like that's really the most hate I get, like specifically. And so I found a way to turn it around where I'm like, hey, like I do that. So if you don't want to scroll through 300 questions, 300 answers, you can like go click and find the answer right away. Like it's actually for you. And so I flipped it around, and almost every time they've actually been like, oh, like sorry, I didn't realize that. And they actually come back like pretty, didn't really mean to be that much of a dick. And I'm like, all right,
wow,
this has worked so far. And
I'm here. Just for the record, I don't hate animals.
Tyler's a serial killer who hates animals.
If I were a serial killer, I'd never admit it on a live stream.
Yeah.
Sounds like a real serial killer thing to say.
That does sound like what a serial killer would say. But, yeah, no. No, I just, I don't think I could take care of a pet. I had a fish when I was younger, and it died.
You flushed it.
Keyword.
My mother flushed it, after it died. Then she didn't tell me, and she replaced it like 3 more times. So I thought I only had one fish die, and she told me like 5 years later. Well, actually, we just didn't want to tell you that your fish died, so you had like 5 fish, and I was like, oh, thank you, mother.
Funny.
You really taught me the right lesson. There, you taught me. So yeah, no, I don't think I would do a good job. Yeah, I kind of like that.
That's just, being active in your league definitely can't hurt in terms of trade talk, in terms of, becoming friends with your league mates, whatever it is. Like it's only going to help just make the whole experience more fun. So I'm right there with Ed, become friends, have
Ed
a watch party with your.
And so is FF Lefty, both of them.
Agreed. They're here every time.
Pretty much, yeah.
Appreciate you guys a lot.
Is this a good rookie tight end class?
I would say it's decent. I would say it's unlikely we get a stud. Meyer, obviously, everybody knows about Michael Meyer. Like, he is very productive. He's going to be an early declare. He's going to be highly drafted. The issue is he's not much of an athlete. Like, he's probably not going to run very fast. He wasn't overly efficient. He only averaged like 12 yards per reception. So he could be more like a Pat Freiermuth kind of mold, which is not the end of the world. Pat Freiermuth's a good player, like a good starting tight end in fantasy, but he's not like lighting the world on fire. Kincaid, I haven't done a ton of research on him. He's a late producer. We'll see what the athleticism looks like. He has a good dominator rating for his final season. It's over 30%, which is really good for all the tight ends I have charted in my database. It was down the field as well. So he's got like a good looking profile. If he can put together some athletic numbers and get that first round or second round draft capital. I'm not sure about Musgrave. I haven't really done a lot of deep diving on this class just yet until we get some of the athleticism numbers and the draft capital. But I will be getting all those tight ends charted eventually. But I wouldn't say it's a great rookie class, but it is a decent rookie class.
Yeah, and I like some of the other names that Ed brought up after. Personally, been price checking Dulcich, McBride, Okonkwo, see what their prices are. Could be cheaper than the rookie pick. Absolutely. And, I think each of those guys, we saw something, whether it was, a little stretch or the last game of the season or whatever it is. Like we saw some something to look forward to out of each of those guys. And you're hoping, honestly, for at least, the Dulcich and Okonkwo, like that their situations are going to get better, hopefully not worse. And so now I like those 3 names and another one, Jelani Woods. I'm a big fan of just, yes, he didn't do all that much, but tight end, that's the one position we'll kind of give him a little pass if they don't produce, almost anything in their rookie year. He's just an athletic freak, and I'm going to take that shot if I can get him for, a very late rookie pick.
I would say out of that group, Dulcich is the one I'm most interested in, just because he was top 80 pick, drafted 80th overall. He was productive pretty much immediately upon playing his rookie year. Pushed out Albert O, who's another tight end who I believe is a decent player, like has shown NFL samples of being like at least an efficient, decent pass catching tight end, Albert O. And then we talk about Russell Wilson. He has been great in the past. It's terrible last year, but at least we know he's with a quarterback who could be good. Talk about adding Sean Payton to the mix. And Dulcich is still going outside the top 100 picks and startups. So he's a lot cheaper than like the Hawkinson, Muth, Goddard tier. And he has the potential to join them. His rookie season was impressive, the numbers that he compiled in the time he was on the field.
And Drew Brees said that Russ is going to have the best years of his career starting now. So,
Okay.
Sean Payton couldn't hurt. He couldn't be worse than Nathaniel Hackett. I'll tell you that.
Also, these are my 4 biggest tight end buys in Dynasty. Those 4.
I like McBride as well, too. He was a very highly drafted player, second-round pick, very productive in college. Ran a 4.56 pro day 40.
I know.
He had a game with 10 targets. I believe he was the only one out of like those tight ends listed there that had 10 targets in a game. Ertz is keeping the price down. Ertz is 32. He's not going to be there forever. So I like McBride a lot as well, especially at the price point. Jelani Woods, too, I think he's got the athleticism. It was a bit of a mess in Indianapolis. He was caught in a bit of rotation, but his efficiency numbers are good. He was good in yards per route run. I would say his upside is probably more just starter, just because he's a little bit older, was not very productive in college until his last year. But I do think like he's still stupid cheap, and he could potentially be a top 12 time, which is not saying a whole lot. But I do think his value is more likely to go up this year than to go down.
And he definitely showed, I mean, he was stuck in like a 3-4 man committee on the Colts, but he even still found a way to flash a little bit. And especially at the end of the year, kind of was playing a little, just more involved. And you're hoping that kind of continues on for going forward. But let's rattle through some more of these. Jamar Chase, 16 targets a game without T. Higgins. If T. Higgins gets traded, not selling Chase ever. I'm right there with you. What do you guys think about John Mechie this year?
Feel bad for him.
Still,
honestly, more than anything. That's really the one main thing.
Still
to say
early
about
to
him.
see kind of what we're going with in terms of the fantasy value and where he'll land in that sense,
startup
rankings.
I think he's probably pretty freaking cheap. Like he's probably close to free at this point. He's still a second round pick. I mean,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't think he's a bad buy. You're not paying a second round rookie pick for him. I wouldn't pay that. Maybe like a late 3. Sure, it's the guy who was a second round pick last year. Maybe he comes back to full health from was leukemia, I believe he had.
Yeah, leukemia.
But you're not paying a lot for this guy. I would say it's a low likelihood of him having a good career, but still, second round pick at his price points. You could throw worse darts, late in the dynasty startup.
Absolutely. Yeah. Trade it up for 2. Here's another. All right. 12 team, super flex, start 10. Trying to move ETN and Jerome Ford for Keenan Allen and Chris Godwin. Also sent ETN and then 4th for Godwin and James Conner.
I would not do those things.
I think you have the right idea going from ETN to Godwin plus maybe another running back or like a high second round pick or like a maybe late first. But I don't think Allen or James Conner is going to be enough to go from ETN to Godwin, considering the gap in market. And I love Chris Godwin, but considering the gap in market value where ETN is going right now and what you can get for him in trades, you need to be getting more than a James Conner or Keenan Allen on top of Chris Godwin.
I mean, ETN on most dynasty ranks is top 4 or 5, right? I mean, I don't see. It just seems like you're trading low by getting some. Like, yes, those are solid wide receivers, but they're definitely older and they're at best in kind of the high end wide receiver 2 range.
I would give Godwin a little more credit than that. I think he's proven time and time again. He's like a really productive player, no matter which quarterback he gets paired with. You can call him old, but he's 26. He's going to turn 27. I mean, you can build around for the next 2-3 years if you can get a real running back on top. But I don't think James Conner is going to be considered. Conner, who knows what he's going to give you next year.
Yeah. All right. We got. Let's see. I had to pull up Coop's comment. Love you all. You are outstanding. Coop, you're the best.
You're the man, Coop.
We love you.
Super Coop.
Absolutely. Let's see. Tyler's trying to bait me into trading for
I deny that. I deny that accusation. Not true. Not true.
And you even got a little unpaid shout out plug. Ed. Homie.
Ed's been a patron for a very long time.
But Iron Never Lies. What's up? How about here's another kind of generic basic one. What picks would you sell Komet for?
Whatever. Like, I don't think I'd give any second for Komet. So.
Me either. I would not pay any second for Komet.
No, yeah. But would you sell? Would you? If I gave you 301, you take it?
I'll take it.
Right? I think
301.
early. early third, I would sell.
What player you think
for,
you're
right?
getting at 301?
Oh, I mean,
Like, who are your
it doesn't
targets
even
there
matter.
if you're taking that?
It doesn't matter.
For Komet, I just
feel
don't.
like you could find a better cash out than 301.
I doubt it. People don't like Komet.
You think you can get a late?
Some people
late
do,
second?
though. Some people
Not
do.
anymore. I feel like people
Yeah.
used to, but I feel like it's just been kind of frustrating. I don't think people really like him anymore.
Yeah, I would take any.
I think
second.
I think before this past season, it's like there's a lot of, you could say he's going to be a top target in that offense. Is who else are they going to throw the ball to? All that stuff, and then it clearly just didn't really work.
I think they're going to
bring
in more targets versus the last 2 years, and
Correct.
he's never going to have his 93 targets from 2021 ever again.
And even then, he's ugly and inefficient. It's low ADOT. It's low yards per route run. He's not an athlete, so he's not generating a high yards per reception. Like, even with a 93 target, I don't even think he averaged like 9 points.
No, he wasn't good. But, yeah, this year he had 7 touchdowns, and I think that's asking a lot considering
he's a better real-life player than a fantasy asset. Again, one of
the
those
whole
guys
team had 19 passing touchdowns, and he had 7 of them. I would not expect that to continue next year.
Yeah. He's 264 pounds. Like, he's a tweener between a blocker and a tight end. Like, and not even a blocker and a receiver. Like, he's more block oriented than a guy who's ever going to matter in fantasy. He's Kyle Rudolph. He's Kyle Rudolph. That's
so
what
I think, I mean, I think Ed and we're all kind of on the same page. Love to get a second, but at this point, I think I'd take that early third as well. And then let's end on this question here. Is Olave a sell high still? Could I get London plus?
You probably can, but I would not say Olave is a sell high.
That's exactly how I feel. Like, I don't think he's necessarily a sell high, especially I feel like he actually ended the season on a less strong note than he kind of was running through the middle and the beginning. But at the same time, I do still think that after the season's over, Olave is likely most people's wide receiver 2 behind Wilson, but ahead of London. That would be my guess. So I do think you might be able to get a little something along with London, but I mean, you got to be going to the right guy too, because I do think there will be some people that like London higher than Olave still. But yeah. I mean, what do you guys think?
I can't see you getting much of a plus from Olave to London, just because Olave is not in a great situation either. Doesn't have any sort of quarterback situation that's stable right now, which is the main issue with London. I saw one deal where I saw someone trade Olave and I think 302 for Chris Godwin in the 108. I think I'm taking Godwin's side on that. Like, if I can pivot from Olave to another wide receiver who I think could potentially outscore him next year, in a Chris Godwin, who I don't think that old, 26, going to be 27, then I can get a first on top, like even like a 108, just throwing a kicker with Olave. I would sell him at that point, but I think he's closer to like that top tier, but he's not being valued with them. So I think he's more of like a hold or a buy than a sell. Yeah.
And then we had one more quick question come in. 101, 112 Goff light for Josh Allen. I'd say yes. In a 12-team super flex, I'd assume most of the time he's going for more though. So
I would pay that for Allen.
That's what I'm saying. Like I would buy Josh Allen at that price.
I'm taking back over. Yeah, I appreciate everyone for sticking with me despite this obviously not having my best day. A lot of food poisoning last night, so feel very lightheaded and sick. But I'm glad we were still able to have a good show. And yeah, like I said at the beginning, if you like the show, just make sure to leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. And don't forget about my Patreon and Twitter. And also to catch all my DLF articles that are coming out on DLF. Yeah, David, you want to plug your stuff on last time?
Yeah, you can just find me on Twitter, as you can see below, at Guru Fantasy World, WRLD. If you want to find me on Patreon as well, offer top 250 rankings. Each player is listed either buy, sell, hold, or buy, sell. A lot of players are in between, depending on price. Each player's got a note as well. Also offer a tight end anatomical checklist, which is just charting every tight end in like the top 50, basically draft capital, athleticism, their dominators, early declare, basically all their information color coded in one nice clean place for you. And then it gets you access to the Guru Fantasy Discord as well. You can get into the Discord's $2.99 a month if you want to just get the rankings, and the tight end checklist is $1 a month. You get, I think, 10% discount if you subscribe for the year.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
I will be back here 7:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow doing the Ask Tyler show on my YouTube channel, and hopefully I won't be this much of a zombie. And I will see you all later. Peace.
Yeah. Thank you.